Hello, City Faith. I hope you're well. I've just come along today to encourage you. In particular, I'd like to encourage someone that has been waiting, trusting, and believing God for a particular thing. I'd like to encourage you from Psalm 40, verse 1 and 2. The Bible says, I waited patiently for the Lord. He turned to me and heard my cry. He lifted me out of the slimy pit, out of the mud and mire. He set my feet on a rock and gave me a firm place to stand. And the Message translation puts it very simply. It says, I waited and waited and waited for God. At last, he looked. Finally, he listened. I want to encourage you today, if you've been waiting and believing God for a particular thing, especially if you've been waiting for a long time. The passage I've just read, Psalm 40, when you look down, you can feel the intense emotion poured out by David. All the things he was believing and trusting God, he was going through a very tough time. And that's why he cried out. The Bible says he waited, and waited for God. And the Bible says that at last, God came through. Finally, he listened. Be encouraged today. If you're believing God for your own house, if you're believing God for that breakthrough at your workplace, if you're believing God for that relationship, you're trusting God for that result about your health, you're trusting him for that child, I want to encourage you today that the Lord will come through. During this time of lockdown, many of us have found ourselves using various platforms, various online platforms for communication. I'm reminded of a day that I had finished one Zoom meeting and I was going into the second Zoom meeting. And I remember I just clicked on the link expecting to be admitted into the meeting. And I was surprised. A pop-up came up on my screen and I was put into a waiting room. And I remember staying at the waiting room, wondering and thinking when I'll be admitted in 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And then I started thinking, oh, what is the host doing behind the screen, behind the scene? Does the host remember that I am waiting? And all these thoughts were going through my mind. Finally, I was admitted into the meeting and the host just welcomed me and said, oh, we were sorting out a few things. You're welcome. And as I think back about that experience, it reminds me that many of us, you and I, were in God's waiting room and we're believing and trusting him for various things in our lives. And there are two main types of people in God's waiting room. The first type of people are the passive people that have waited for such a long time. They've trusted God and their faith begins to fail. They're not really sure when the answer will come through. And that's the first type or group of people. The second group of people are the ones that are expectant. They're waiting in God's waiting room. They're believing, they're trusting, they're just hoping, and they're not giving up because they know that God will come through. I want to encourage you today, if you're trusting God for anything, be the second group of people that are believing and trusting God to come through, because he will come through. And you may wonder, what do I do while waiting? In the waiting room, there are many things you can do, but I just like to leave you with two main things. The first thing is for you to believe God, that he hears your cry, that he knows, and that he will come through. The Bible talks about Abraham and Sarah hoping against hope. God's timetable is not our timetable. The Bible makes us to know that all things work together for good. And just like I gave the illustration about the Zoom meeting, when in life, when everything seems silent and quiet, like nothing is going on, I want to encourage you, God is behind the scene. He's working all things together for our good. He's very busy and he will come through for you. And the last thing, I want to encourage you, do not give in to worry. Do not give in to anxiety. And the last passage is Psalm 37 verse 7. The Bible says, be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. God will come through. Be encouraged today as we continue to wait and believe God. He will come through. He's never late. God bless you.